It's not the work that makes greatness. It's the joy of doing what you love. Ta-da. Okay, so this next person that we're going to come to the stage, I'm very fortunate that he had time in his schedule and made time for me and this whole thing. He is the host of dtla, which is the Poetry Lounge. It happens every Tuesday night. It's the longest running poetry lounge in Los Angeles and possibly the nation. He and my brother Dante Bosco co-founded that along with a couple other friends, and it's huge. A couple hundred people come every Tuesday night at Melrose and Fairfax at the Greenway Court Theater. You guys should definitely check it out if you guys are into this sort of thing, which I think you are. And but as well as that, he was on Def Poetry Jam, Russell Simmons' Def Poetry Jam on Broadway, and is an award winner, and is, does things for big, he's like a spokesperson for awesome companies and stuff. He's just an all-around amazing guy, and a father, and a husband, and an amazing poet. This is Shihan the poet.
I was inspired to write this by a team of friends. 2014 years ago, there were no cell phones, no 24-hour news channels, no social media. It was all word of mouth, and I was too forgiving. Considered a threat to the powers that be. Crucified by the state police, they called me Jesus. 1400 years ago, I was undeserving of such things, king or queen or stolen legacy, tongue removed, not ready for war, had to be pillaged, then removed from the history books. They called me Africa. 400 years ago, I was government funded, colonized and civilized for the new world. They called me cargo. 200 years ago, I was in the field, picking cotton, discipline for asking, discipline for dancing, discipline for reading, discipline on bad days, discipline on good days, discipline to keep subordinate. I built the White House I couldn't live in. They called me slave. 130 years ago, I was ready for war, but not ready for freedom, still not saved, not really human. 3/5 of a person, they call me nigger. 70 years ago, I was 14, sitting on a stack of books, electrocuted for a crime with no witness. They call me the youngest person executed in the United States in the past 100 years. 60 years ago, I was minding my own business, walking down the street, enjoying my day, admiring the beauty, thinking out loud, whistling in the wrong direction, scooped up, beaten, eye gouged, shot in the face, barbed wire tied to a cotton gin fan, and thrown in the river, covered up by police. But my mom chose open casket to remind you of the evil that still exists. They call me Civil Rights Kickstarter. 50 years ago, I was civil rights worker, registered voters, arrested on Trump charges, released in the dark to the Klan, didn't make it home. The judge say we got what we deserved. 40 years ago, I was a student body protesting the Cambodian campaign. I was idealistic, didn't think it could happen to me till the National Guard was brought in. They fired 67 rounds at us over a period of 13 seconds, killing 4 students and wounded 9 others. One of them is still paralyzed. They called us troublemakers. 30 years ago, I was COINTELPRO target, crack consumer turned commodity for the prison system. I was beaten into a coma where I lied in the hospital for 13 days before dying. They called it happenstance. 20 years ago, I was 66 years old. Social Security wasn't cutting it. I was $394.60 behind on rent when police thought 2 shots from a 12-gauge shotgun would make me move sooner. Someone called me grandma. 17 years ago, I was mistaken for a broom closet. NYPD sodomized me with a plunger. They said I wasn't listening right. 15 years ago, I was shot dead after the gun they planted on me, the one I drew on them, was traced back to their own police chief. They called it pure coincidence. 11 years ago, I was sleeping when Officer Lyles woke me up by fracturing my skull after not appearing at my probation hearing. I was 13. 3 years later, the same cop shoots me through the heart. He called me repeat probation violator. 9 years ago, question, if someone drags you through the woods chained by the neck and no one sees it, did it really happen? 5 years ago, I was unarmed and handcuffed on a platform, flat on my stomach. When he shoots me in the back, he say, whoopsie, my bad. 2 years ago, I was victim of a neighborhood watch, chasing to my home, gunned down in front of my grandmother and younger brother. They call me deja vu. 1 year ago, I was in the wrong car, wrong color, wrong time, but still right place, delivering newspapers when cops mistook sounds of the newspapers hitting the concrete with gunshots. 8 cops shoot 103 times, hitting 71-year-old me and just missing my daughter. They say settlement should mean we good now. 1 month ago, I was headphones, hands up, head down, music too loud, should have known better. They called me threat to their life. Last week, I was shot in the back 6 times by officers who claim I lunged towards them with a samurai sword. They say contradicting cell phone footage evidence doesn't tell the entire story. Last night, it was dark out and I was street light and cell phone felt too comfortable, had my hands up, said yes sir, turned my back too big, looked like target practice, or too small, could slip through the cracks, too dark, or just right, light skin, wrong neighborhood, wrong neighbor, Black Wall Street, Tuskegee experiment, project dweller, wrong neighborhood, separate water fountains, bathroom, school side entrance, treated like a suspect, didn't look like I belonged, almost out of sight, perp, incapacitated drug dealer, high out of my mind, nigga. They say I was running towards them, but I guess it looks the same as running away. I could have been protecting myself, but appeared aggressive, threatening on my cell phone or wallet. Could have been a gun or maybe some flowers. Maybe I reminded them of transatlantic cargo or Holocaust. State legislators subsidized by the Fed, privatized for profit, mistake, misguided, asking for it, 3/5 nigga, right? I guess they heard the story too many times. Desensitized to the plight, just another alien, human, problem, too potent, too black, too strong, covered up, planted on, displaced, jail fodder, runaway slave, absent father, abusive husband, lost cause, asked for it, didn't answer fast enough, voiceless, didn't speak English, didn't remember my place, played my music too loud, had questionable profile pics, my speech pattern was consistent with a criminal, the reason I needed to be handcuffed and thrown in the back of a squad car, didn't see where I hid the gun to shoot myself in the chest, they must have forgot I was quadruple jointed, a magician, David Blaine, all smoke and mirrors, not really myself, or maybe I didn't, or maybe I did by being all this black and Latino at one time, at the wrong place, in the wrong world, and it's always the wrong time to be color, or conscious, or fraction, or insignificance, or just walking. But I realized no one really cared about me when I was no longer worthy of a Facebook status, or a trending hashtag on Twitter. They forgot about me when the new iPhone was announced, or the Super Bowl happened, didn't reblog because the Ice Challenge was more fun to watch, or Coney 2012, or the Galaxy 6, or the murder wasn't on World Star, or my execution had a green screen, or the Ukraine invasion, or some planes disappearing over the ocean somewhere, or my face didn't look good on a t-shirt. My death wasn't fashion friendly enough. I'm starting to sound like a run-on sentence or a runaway slave, history repeating itself, crazy to think I would deserve life, but got death instead. Can't understand why I'm always tripping, right? I guess you're right? Why am I always taking my life so serious?
Well, since you just did that piece, what I want to talk about is you being a black man in this society and a poet and an activist in that way, and the responsibility of that, which I would like to say, part of the reason why I do these things is that I have amazing friends that actually do this for a living, and that's what some of us are in this room struggling to do and striving to be, is to be artists for a living. He is a full-time poet. Like, this is what he does for a living, and he has children, which we will talk maybe about in a little bit if time persists. But he makes his living doing this, which is an amazing feat. So, I mean, I know I just asked like 5 questions, but if you could just go.
All the different things. Okay, so I am a full-time poet, a full-time artist. I've been living off my art since '97, so this is all I do for a living. I take care of my wife and 3 children, and we have a house of poetry, which I think is important. But I think one of the things that made that possible is the mentors that I had growing up and getting into, especially the LA scene, because I'm originally from New York and I moved to LA in like '93, '94, and the first open mic I went to, I met 2 of the 3 people we founded the Poetry Lounge with, and I met my mentor that night. Her name's Ronnie Walters. And I became part of her poetry troupe, and that was kind of important to have people around you who weren't scared, who weren't afraid to tell you that's weak, or you need to do better, or you should try reading some more. Because a lot of writers that I know read only their own material, and you can't really grow as an artist when you're reading your own stuff. And so she kind of put me onto a lot of stuff. And as far as social responsibility, I think that's something for me was more of a thing where I felt like just being an example of the opposite of the stereotype, like not to fit into what the box they're trying to put me into is, but at the same time, there is a part of me that feels selfish, especially living now, you know, bringing kids into this world, especially young, because my wife is Puerto Rican, I'm black and Puerto Rican, my wife is Puerto Rican, I'm black and Puerto Rican, and so there's a certain thoughts that go through my head about bringing children into this world now and having them understand the idea and the ideal of being colorblind, and that whole thing is important. I think it's great ideal, but the reality is that's not where we're at right now, and so I can't have them be thinking they're in this fantasy world that doesn't exist. So I try and be as honest and real with my children as possible, and most of the people who know me and most of my friends know I'm very upfront about things. So if I do not like something or something bothers me, or I'm a conspiracy dude, but not the crazy conspiracy guy. But I do believe in conspiracies because I believe conspiracies sound crazy until someone apologizes for it. You know, like Tuskegee sounds stupid until the government went, our bad. Or smallpox and blankets, you know, all that stuff sounds crazy until someone goes, yeah, we did that. So I'm very aware, and I want my children and the people that I surround myself with to be just as aware. So we kind of are looking out for each other, and I think that goes hand in hand with being an artist and having people who look out for you, you know, when you're messing up, when you're doing great, they give you honest feedback. So
community, right?
Yes.
Building that community, and you're a big leader in that community. DPL again is Tuesday nights. If you guys are interested in going, which you definitely should. I want to talk about because I'm a mom now, okay? And what that really, and some of you guys may be mom. Thank you. I got a little. She's about to be 2. How important is it to continue your dreams in the face of such a ginormous reality that is raising another human being, and or anything equivalent to having a child, but when other things come up and kind of cloud, or do they contribute to the dream, or does that become the drive, or something like that? Talk.
That's kind of different. I mean, what's the best way? What is the easiest way to say that? I think, you know, there's something about being a parent. Well, there's a responsibility that comes with being a parent for someone else's life. But I think also responsibility is the death of your childhood. I think it's time to step into place. And not that you can't have fun anymore, but you know, there was a comedian who said, you know, his son walked up and was like, I'm 4 years old. And that, you know, that at some point that ceases to exist, and it may be bad reasons why that happened. Why, you know, the outside influences that kind of change how we, you know, introduce ourselves and how we create friendships. But if my kids see what I go through, like there is a buffer because they should understand that I'm in charge and I take care of them and that, but they also need to see, so there's a buffer there, but they also need to see the steps that I'm taking to make things happen, because it's the same way someone who comes from like a quote-unquote, like a better off position, you know, like lived at a better dinner table. You
more
know?
Privileged.
Yeah, more privileged household, that they get to see that there's like a blueprint laid out with them. And so the same thing has to be done in whatever, as far as being a parent, so that your children understand there are steps that need to be taken no matter what that dream leads to. So whether it's I'm going to be, like I went to school originally because I'm from New York, like you have to apply to high school, so I was an accounting major before I became an English major. So there was a part of me like, I don't want to be an accountant. You know, I was tutoring people, that wasn't my thing, but you know, the steps that it takes to do that, I totally respect and I understand, and I want them to see that part, and I want them to see all the stuff I had to go through to become an artist. You know, because the art, you know, my friends and I, we understand that art, especially when you're becoming a full-time artist, art is always dependent on other people liking it. So just because we think we're great doesn't mean anything if no one else does, especially if we're trying to make a living off of it. You know, it's different if we're just sitting in a circle and we're like, yeah, do another one.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But if we're trying to make a living, you need to understand that. And I think one of the things I learned early was hearing no, and understanding no doesn't mean stop. It just means that's not for you.
I believe it. So. Every no is on time and every yes. One last question, and then you're going to do another piece, and then we're going to continue the open mic. Is what would Shihan now tell young Shihan in a tweet size? What would Shihan the adult tell Shihan the child? The child that is right here.
It doesn't last forever.
All right, I'm with it. I'll give it, take it out.
There's no better way to explain my family than like anyone else's. Except for my father, who raised me on crying is for girls and never let anyone beat you. and a mother who found enlisting in the Marine Corps made life easier to adjust to than a 5-year-old with the chicken pox. An older sister I've seen 4 times, I've been spoken to, so I turned right into her on 42nd Street in line for Godzilla in 1985. And another sister, raised in Puerto Rico to the echoes of, why couldn't you have me more like your mothers? And in Vogue, yeah, they're pretty for some black girls. So I remained an only child in a house of cards waiting to be crushed by or paper cut to a slow death with. The fear of living in a house of cards is knowing the right gust of wind can paper cut you to death. When I was a kid, I wanted to be Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe. Black and cool as shit. Until I learned about my Uncle Pete, who died in Vietnam after the ammunition truck he was riding in exploded my grandmother's emotions all over her house. When I was 6, she made me promise her I'd never join the military. She says this country had never done anything for black women given their lives for, and I agreed. Then the Marines took my mother. So could you blame me for not trusting this country? Was confiscated a piece of my life without any of my help. How does a 6-year-old rationalize his mother leaving at home to travel the world? At first, I thought it was cool. My mom was gonna be like Jinx, or Lady J, or Scarlet and G.I. Joe. Only she was Puerto Rican and didn't know how to cook and couldn't be seen every day on TV. Then I grew up and relationships changed. My father, I want to tell him I miss him. I love him more than anything in the world, but I'm scared I have nothing else left to say. A fear felt so left for a city with no seasons, a silent time frozen but skipped over, hoping there are ways of just accepting things for how they are. Hard about a routine of hardships growing up. Sometimes the relationships between a father and son is lost when words that used to bond just become words used to bond. He says he's sorry for everything, and I can hear it in his voice. A shame acknowledged by the lack of eye contact. I could cry if I knew I'd feel bad afterwards, like the day I saw my father cry for the first time. See, all superheroes have weaknesses, carefully camouflage his idiosyncrasies, and the only superhero I knew may do with no job, and the love for the only child he raised, whose strengths would soon succumb to the aftereffects of Vietnam's residue. I realized how hurt we've been by inability to vocalize feelings not dealt with, like surprises no once, harbored emotions kept at bay. I told my kids the same thing my father told me. Never forget how much Daddy loves you, okay? You know I love you more than anything in the world, right? Almost trying to convince myself that they understand. The guilt away for too long a period of time makes his presence felt an uncomfortable sleep habit until I met my wife. She helped raise me with every spare emotion she could offer. She was my best friend I wish my daughter grew up to be just like. I guess she was the mother I needed, with my mother not there. See, my mother was a DJ. She cut in and out of my life. A celebrity of sorts, seen on special occasion, the hottest ticket in town. I never had tickets to go see. Annoyingly, she transposed my growth. I want to hug her, like I mean it. But I'm scared I'll find comfort in this emptiness. Glad for the party she got started, but left feeling punched drunk by my fear of abandonment. Sometimes, I start fights with my wife, for no reason, or for the intimacy found in it afterwards. Confused but still comfortable, always willing to apologize. Like doing too many hollow apologies, how selfish I've been. One day, my wife would tell me how I used to be, and I act like I didn't know it was like that. Like baby stories your parents tell your friends, and then apologize for everything I've done, and she'll be able to tell by the look in my eyes. See, I was never taught about the feelings of others, or how delicate they are, or how easily a heart can be broken with the right words. I wish I could reach inside of her mind and have all of her questions answered. Back to my mother. She thinks my scars have been healed by little addressing they've been given. I never realized how much emotion had been pushed to the side until I tried to explain it like a stack of poems never finished or the closing of a chapter not read. My feelings are all cliche. I have no original reactions left, holding tear-spotted napkins, dotting my eyes, crossing my tears, making sure I get each emotion right. My grandmother recently called to tell me next time I come over, we need to talk. And it finally hits me. At 92 years old, she's been around forever. But she's not going to live forever. She wants to let me know what's going to happen when she passes, and I don't want to think about the future, but I anticipate its destruction. See, in all my years on this planet, I've never witnessed someone in a box, lowered into the ground and then dedicated to the sky, so when I die, I want to be cremated, burning up all of my imperfections, and then have someone sprinkle what's left over some place I've never been to, in hopes of inspiring someone I will never know anything about.